止めればよかっただろうか。いや、できなかった。正規の悪女も一斉すことなんてできない。目をそらすことも。
Hi there everyone, Scott and Lars back with another review and analysis for the Apothecary Diaries, brought to you by Camille's Harem, a channel for novice authors by novice authors, and because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And thank you for joining us on this incredible episode of Moriarty and Sherlock level reveals and villainy, all culminating in a few scenes that are just absolutely beautiful and heartbreaking. Wow.
Man, and that's the beauty of this story. We've had so much build up, and like we've talked about it, like, oh, this episode's just build up. This is just like continuing the story. We're just finding out more relevant information, but it's not like groundbreaking stuff. But like, what you don't realize is that's what you have to do to have the like groundbreaking drop reveals that like completely define the story. Because if you're not providing that information in a believable way, because we're actually shown where all this information is coming from, where like we're getting it from as it's being told in the story, and now we're getting, and it's beautifully done, and it's part of the reason I am more than happy to watch Apothecary Diaries over solo leveling any day.
Yeah. The emotional payoff is truly here because of just all of the great character development across multiple characters, across multiple plot lines, all converging at this point. So let's talk a little bit about the events of this episode and then just start diving into just all of the reveals. So this episode continues with the siege of the castle. The royal guard are in. And the moment that they hear Lihaku blow his whistle saying that Mao Mao is safe, they then just start cutting loose. Shinji's like, okay, well, my gal has been secured. Onwards with the extermination. And they carve their way to the room where Lady Shenmei had been. And this is where Lord Shiso is waiting for them. And he has this whole moment of coming on out like the grand villain, laughing and being all smug like with his guns, trying to shoot soldiers and Jinji. Jinji has a complete Jedi moment where he slices a bullet out of the air. Go Jinji. And Shiso kind of has like, again, like his moment of, I am the villain. If only I could have killed you back then, everything would have been so easy. And then he just gets impaled multiple ways through with swords and dies. The royal guard continue with clearing out the castle, and Jinji's like, where are the secret passageways? Because all good castles must have secret passageways. And when he opens up one, he gets a gun put to his head by Shisui. He is taken prisoner and led through the secret tunnels throughout the palace on over to where Lady Shenmei and where Suede are hiding. However, along the way, Shisui is an absolute chatterbox, talking with Jinji, revealing things while answering his questions, and she takes him on over to her mother and then begins this fantastic, diabolical diatribe, revealing it all, what the grand plan was, how her mother played a role in all of this, the real history that led to this moment, going all the way back, like so many horrible things in this show, due to the previous emperor and his mother and the horrible situation that they cultivated within the palace. Not just the rear palace, but the palace in general. Taking advantage of so many different people's lives, how Suede's mother was cast on out, and Lord Shiso was forced to take her in as his wife, even though he was head over heels for Lady Shenmei. This guy even risked getting executed to sneak into the rear palace to talk to her. Like, this guy was head over heels for her, yet she never saw that. She only saw power, contempt, used her husband and his connections for her own gain, surrounded herself by yes men, and Shisui has kind of taken control of the entire plot and has orchestrated it, at least according to her, in order to expunge in one go the entire leadership of the Shi clan, and thereby ridding the empire of these rebels. At least so she claims. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. And when her mother gets really upset at her for calling out all of her faults, she takes the gun away from Shisui and tries to shoot her own daughter, but the gun is plugged, so it backfires in her face and leads to her death. And then the Shisui...
so Moriarty level shenanigans right there. Like, it's so perfect.
It is. It's so good. She then takes off one of those little clawed fingers that her mother had used, and then scars Jinshi's face as part of one of two requests. One request is for him to spare the innocent and to spare the dead, and then said like a small bit of vengeance on the royal family by scarring the face of the handsome prince. She then goes out and dances to greet the sun. Boston shows up with the other guards, and they riddle her with bullets, and she goes flying over the edge before Sweet A is able to catch her. And the episode ends with Boston getting beat up for allowing Jinji to get captured and injured, and Jinji going to check in on Mao Mao, who is huddled with the corpses. She's got a weird bruise thing climbing up her neck, which is suspect. And the guy who had helped Mao Mao to escape sees something sparkling in the snow. Woo! And there the episode ends.
And another thing you got to point out there is he's got a bunch of stuff on his back. Like, he's making a runner, but he's getting the goods first.
Oh yeah, he's got goods. And he's probably doing better than all of those guys, all those shirtless guys who ran off with the silver. They're probably all freezing to death right now.
Well, and he's got the goods, but like, it's something we'll find out next season when that comes out, what those goods are.
Oh boy.
Anyway.
Oh boy.
So yeah, beautiful episode. And there's so many like parallels that are built up to this point. And it's so wonderfully done. I was pointing out, I was like, yeah, like, I like Solo Leveling. I'm not gonna say that I hate it, but like, I agree with something I heard one guy say. It's like it's like candy. It's like you're watching it just for the fun, like, action fights, and that's it. You're not there for the actual story. Here, you're sitting down for a full course meal because, like, we have a bit of action. We have like the suspense, the intrigue, the character drama, like, and it's all built up so freaking well.
Yeah. I and to come back around to something I said that we would discuss, I might as well already bring it to the forefront. Listening to Shisui's monologue, it was fantastic. It puts basically all the pieces into place. The question is, are they in the right place? The reason why I say this is because everything that she says, while it makes sense, contradicts her father's actions and thoughts. Going back to the previous episode where he's just all like, "Oh, how could it come to this? Why am I so weak?" We already know that Lady Shenmei could never have planned out all of the schemes that he did. They're pretty clearly his, but at the same time, he's such a weak-willed noodle that's like, okay, I can imagine how you tried to set up Jinji's assassination and the deaths of the deaths of especially the baby boys in the rear palace. I can absolutely understand that. You smuggling your daughter in, all of that makes excellent sense. However, I find it very, very hard to believe that you had a very long-reaching plan to gather all of the scum from your from your clan together into one place, so that way you could offer them up to the sword of the emperor, along with yourself. I'm like, I don't see that from you. I really don't see that self-sacrificing aspect of you. And even though you're very intelligent, I don't see anything that says that you are that far planning. So it makes me wonder if what Shisui is saying is trying to recontextualize a very bad situation into one that helps to redeem her father to a certain extent, while at the same time taking responsibility for a very bad choice.
Yeah. Yeah, I can definitely see this, because like I can definitely see like Shisui pulling all of that off that like is being claimed by Shiso. But like Shiso just, he's such a weak-willed yes man. Like he only really had eyes for Shinmei the entire way through,
Mm-hmm.
and was spurned the entire way through.
Oh, that poor guy. Oh, real quick, just again to emphasize the stupidity of Lady Shenmei. He showed up at the rear palace. He's not supposed to be there, especially without escorts. He showed up. He risked his life to try to spirit her away, to take her away from this place, and she rejected him. It's like, lady, think about this for just a second. This man is not looking down on you. This man is looking up at you way more than he should.
Shenmei, though, on the other hand, and like you've pointed out before, like this is a great story to show how to write like a strong female character, and we're getting a counterpoint in the showcase of like Shenmei, because like Shenmei's character, like even though she's like going after what she wants, her strength, like whatever strength she has, undermined by like how sadistic and cruel she is. It's undermined by how like one-sided she is. She's not intelligent about it. She's not like, she's laying down all these plans, but like these plans are greater than she's able to pull off.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is because she's surrounding herself with so many yes men. Like she's just screwed herself.
Yeah,
But then we've got her daughter, Shisui, who's like, where did Shisui come from that union? Because, like, yeah, she's got, like, Lady Shenmei's originally beauty, that's for sure. And she's been, like, raised with all of this knowledge, but, like, she's, like, kind. She's, strong-willed. She's able to accomplish what she really wants to accomplish, but like she actually thinks through the process first, and that's why she's getting this like all of her plans going on right now. Like she's doing this all to get those two things out of Jinchi by the end of this.
Yeah,
It's so like, it's so fascinating, because like it's like, okay, yeah, forgive those who are innocent, forgive those who are dead, and then let me do this one thing, scratch his face. And that was just part of her plans too, because she's like, she's got to be the villain and fall at the end of this as a martyr for her own cause.
Yeah,
And
yeah. There really
so
is
well
no, there really is no instance where she can walk away from this.
yeah.
She said that she was going to use her knowledge of what else the Empire was about to face as a leverage for her escape and for the escape of other people. And it's one of those things like, well, girl, you're so smart. Like, why don't you utilize that? And it's because she herself understands the vindictiveness of the system. If she was to be let go, she would be hunted to the end of her days. She will never know any peace other than in death. And so she has to play up the part of the mastermind villain in order to draw all the attention onto her. And what I like is that Jinji knows that he's being manipulated, and he
Yeah.
goes along with it. And so he goes along with it because I feel like Jinji himself, and we've already seen this demonstrated, how he doesn't want to sacrifice his men needlessly in a full frontal charge. And neither has he ravaged the land, as far as we've seen so far, which are things that would normally be done by a punitive army. So this bespeaks a sense of gentleness, a sense of mercy within Jinchi, even though he is very clearly capable of anger and justice, as we see in this episode and in some other episodes too. And so this is him being like, I understand. So I will let you manipulate me into thinking that you, your father, and your mother are the ultimate villains. And I'm going to let your whole scheme play out until the bitter end. So that way you will be remembered as the greatest villain.
And then past that point, the only way Shisui, the way Lon can get forgiveness is to die. And so she has a very graceful fall from the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Like, love that scene, how beautiful it is. I feel like the dance went on a little too long, but it's part of the story. It's like she's basically it's part of the drama, but she's showboating at the end there too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Just like, because we can see it in the episode. It's not that Boston and the others then pull out other pistols that they've already loaded. These guys have already shot her, and she's still dancing for at least 20 seconds as they're priming and then loading their pistols to fire, because they're not even using the new flintlock pistols. They're using the old school pistols.
Right.
And so like while she's dancing, you can just imagine these guys all like, okay, pour in the powder, tap it down, ball, tap it down, more powder, tap it down, light the flint, light the fuse, put the fuse properly in place. That way it doesn't blow out in the snow. All right, now aim and fire. And it takes way longer than how I've just said to do all of that. So it is a little ridiculous when you stop to think about it. Yet at the same time, because of the fact this is fiction, we've built her on up. This is her moment to kind of revel in her own freedom for just a moment, and to earn the epitaph that she's being given as the greatest villain of her generation. And with the music and everything, it's that, like, you have to go through that just that way you can revel in that moment before she dies.
Right. Oh man, but like she put so much into place, because like, yeah, like, and I was thinking about this earlier today, like, we were spending so much time figuring out, is like, why are all these like weird like substances, the perfumes, the plants, the mushrooms, like, etc., like suddenly getting into the Rare Palace, all for the sake of making abortion medication? Like, I could see the concern like they would normally have, but like, who's so focused on this the entire way through? And it wasn't for the reason we thought.
No, it wasn't. Which is crazy.
I know, because like, oh yeah, they're gonna poison somebody so they can't have kids. No, it was so somebody could poison themselves so they wouldn't have kids. And like, while those sentences sound similar, the implications in this story are huge.
Yeah. And to build on that, so we were talking about this before we began recording, the parallels between the situation of Lady Lulan / Shisui and Lady Fuyo. That you have these two women who desperately want freedom from the situation that they're in.
Yeah.
And in many ways, like, they both wear masks that are meant to cover who they truly are underneath. Fuyo as the love-struck girl who so desperately just wants to go home with the man that she loves. Lulan as covering up Shisui, the girl who just wants to live freely and love her older sister, and not be a part of any of these schemes and shenanigans. So they both wear masks. They're both stuck within this system, and they both have this moment of freedom during a dance. But one gets their happy ending, and the other one doesn't. I mean, it ends as happily, quote unquote, as it could possibly be for her, given the situation. And like what, and like, okay, well, what's the difference? And actually, that's a question that should be asked. What's the difference? I think the biggest difference comes down to that Princess Fuyo had someone who loved her so much that kind of a bit like her father with Lord Shiso. He's like, I love you so much, I'm going to risk death. Princess Fuyo had a man who loved her so much that he was willing to risk it all for her, and she played her part to the hilt in order for their fates to align perfectly, so that way she could be gifted to him and they could leave the palace together. And Shisui could have had that as well, but everyone in her family was so absorbed in their own machinations or their own fears. Lady Shenmei, out to take down the empire and get revenge. Lord Shiso, being an absolute simp and not thinking things through. And even her own beloved sister, Suide. Suide is caught in this horrible relationship of abuse and neglect. There is the only one showing her any relief and love and light within her immediate circle is her younger sister, Shisui, and Shisui is bound to the commands of her mother and father. It isn't until she's in the rear palace that she's able to take on the identity of Shisui and really be more of herself. But by that time, she's caught. She's stuck. And the emperor, because she is one of the four main concubines, goes and visits her regularly. And all that implies. So she's stuck.
She ended up in this situation in the first place because she's basically getting treated like a hostage. And that's what Lady Shenmei was originally too. But like because she's the daughter of Shiso, who's like a very powerful individual, like just below the emperor, basically, one of his advisors. And so like he has to go to her place because she's in a position of power, like given to her in the rare palace, like all of these other people like are, because they come from either really rich countries or families or something like that. And it just extenuates that, like, even though there's no slavery, there's still slavery situation that's going on. It's all like compounding on top of itself. But like, and that was one of the things I was looking at earlier, is like, oh yeah, like he has to go one in every 10 nights or so, like to visit Lulan, but does he necessarily have to push anything? But it sounds like, and we're not like, of course we're not gonna see any kind of like intimacy or like that kind of scene necessarily, but the implications of Lulan going after the abortion medication, oh yeah, they were going at it.
Yeah, well, and also, in retrospect, one of Mao Mao's observations becomes important at the bathhouse because Shisui always wore her clothing rather frumpily, so that way it hid what her body figure was like. And the moment then that she's more exposed, Mao Mao's like, "You've got a chest," and we know that that's something that the emperor definitely prizes.
Very much so. Oh man, I wish Shisui could get a happy ending, but fortunately, only the dead are forgiven.
And like I said, Princess Fuyo is the only one thus far who we can arguably say got a truly happy ending.
Right.
Which like, and I keep coming back to this because I mean for that to enforce that this story is not going to pull its punches where it matters.
Right.
Like Scott just said, it's not going to show us any of the hanky-panky. It's not going to show us any of the real steamy bits because it's not needed.
Right.
It really isn't. What matters most is what's happening to the emotional effects that choices and actions have on them, who they then become as a result. And it amplifies the plight that Shisui is going through by not actually getting to see it all. There's two schools of thought in writing. One where it's like, I'm going to give you everything and overwhelm you and shock you. And that works to a certain extent. But once the shock has happened, it wears off. There's very few moments in characters who have such a sustainable, shocking experience that you can't escape it. There's very few stories that pull that off. It ends up being far more poignant to imply, to suggest. Some of the most powerful moments where it like makes you like totally scared of what just happened in the Wheel of Time, for instance, happens in one sentence.
Right.
There's some horrible moments that happen in that book, and all it is one sentence. You know what happened. Your imagination is filled in the rest, and you can't escape it.
Yep. Well, and that's what I love about this story is we're shown all of these different characters pulling off their own schemes. They're pulling off, like, trying to reach their own, like, goals and happiness. And, like, we're just kind of given little bits of information here and there as, like, these smaller individual stories are happening. But because we're getting so many of these stories, we're building a network of like connections. And when we finally get to the center of the web, everything starts to make more sense.
Yeah.
And it's something I need everyone to remember here is this is the end of the 4th light novel. When there's 13 of them. The story's still going. And so there's going to be things that have been built up to this point that are just further connections to what's going to happen later. And just the concept of this, like, just boggles my mind. But, like, there's such a beautiful writing lesson here, and it's something I really need to work on, because I end up focusing so much on, like, my main characters. I failed to create more characters and like more actual characters in that regard, if that makes sense, because this has a whole cast, and it's why it works out so well, because they're all individuals. They're all like going after their own stuff, and it's affecting the broader story as it happens. It's the same reason why it's so fun to get into My Hero Academia right at the start, because you're introduced to this whole class of individuals and villains and like everybody else involved, and the story's more engaging and exciting, and you can find a character you can relate to easier because of that.
Yeah, the more fleshed out the characters are within a story, and especially for a longer running story, such as the Apothecary Diaries, you need to have a very expansive and fleshed out supporting cast. And I'll just have my own experience as a writer. I when I was writing my book Knights of Halley Cruise, there are some characters who are in that book that were never planned. They were never planned to begin with. And once I'd written the first draft, I was like, this sucks. It feels empty. And so in the second draft, I started adding in characters, and they ended up becoming just fantastic additions that helped to elevate the entire story.
Nice.
That's the power of a good supporting cast. They're not the main characters, but they absolutely do the story credit. And in some cases, I'm like, I like you guys more than I like the main characters right now.
Well, and that's the power too of a good second draft, because you're like actually going in and it's like, okay, I need this thing to flow better, and I need it to be more interesting. How do I do that? And often enough, good way to do that, if you have the room to write them in, is more characters.
All right. So, everyone, that's been our review and our analysis for this episode of the Apothecary Diaries. This is now where we'd love to hear from you, your thoughts, your insights on this episode and on the story thus far. Please sound off in the comments. And if you are not yet someone who is following us, then please hit the subscribe button. It helps us out a lot. But if you'd especially like to help us out, then please check out the books that we've published. Links for all of them are in the description below. But otherwise, Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible adventure that we call writing. And until the next video, y'all, tschüss.
Okini.